already seen my theory video about Git, GitHub, and version control systems, please feel free to click on the link up. The video is going to really help you to lay the foundation. What am I doing with Git and GitHub? Why do I need it as a data scientist, data engineer, software developer, and all those streams of data-related? A quick summary about Git and GitHub. They are part of version control system. Version control system allows us to track changes and track faults, track contributions from different team members. Git lives on your computer. It's a software, nothing to do with the cloud. GitHub is a hosting service on the cloud. That's a summary. I will begin with GitHub. Let's start with signing into GitHub. If you don't already have a GitHub account, I'll put the link up the top right. All right, so let's go to github.com, sign in. Now I don't want to go to my usual, I'm just going to go to the one that I have built for the purposes of this exercise. And okay, now I'm on my GitHub page. So if you're wondering why my GitHub is in black, I have a video up there that shows you how to set your theme to black. The first time opening your GitHub account, you will see a window like the one I'm seeing now. So you can create a repository on the left. Before I go on, what is a repository? So think of repository, a folder of your files, a bucket of apples, a bag of your stuff, or the work of your team. You are part of a software development team. Everybody is doing a job, and this is where you store them. Your code, your data, your presentations, your images, your even document files. So everything sits in a repository. But what do we call it normally? Repo. People like to shorten it and just say, can I have a link for your repo? Means, can I have access to your stuff or the team's stuff? That's repo or repository. You can do that on the left. You can read the guide or start a project. And then also you can introduce yourself with making your first README file, which I'm going to really get back to that. Remember, go to the top right. I don't have my photo yet because I didn't really set any photo for this profile. But what I can do, I can just go ahead to my profile and set a photo. Let's go to your repositories or your repos. Click on your repositories and that will take you to your main page. I don't have any followers. I'm not really following anyone because I just made this account a couple of days ago. Photo can potentially come here or my dog. For now, I have just this avatar sitting here. All right, a really quick tour of your GitHub page. So your image, your username, you can edit your profile. You can put your name. So I'm just going to put my full name. You can have a bio, a data scientist. You can put whatever you want, your company, your location, your website, and your Twitter handle. So that can be saved. That's how other people will see you. You can set your status. I am super busy and never change it because I'm always busy. Well, not really. You can change it to anything you want. You can choose any of these cool little ones. Okay, let's say I have this baseball. And then you have the overview of your activities. So how active you are, what are your contributions throughout the time, and the projects that you're working on, your repositories or your repos, the projects you're involved in, the packages, and the repositories that you have set stars on them, like as your favorite. Let's go back to repositories, and we're gonna make our first repositories. But let's go back. Let's look at the bigger picture. What are we doing? We want to have some data on the cloud, bring it back to our laptop, computer, PC, whatever you're using, and also move back from your laptop, computer, whatever you're using, to the cloud. So what I'm going to really show you here in summary is downloading data from the cloud onto your computer, from your computer to the cloud, and how are we going to keep track of these? I don't have any Git repositories yet, but let's go ahead and make one. Click on New. That will take you to create a new repository page. Give it a name, test, and give it a description. This is a repo to show how to use Git and GitHub. Okay, I'm going to make it public so that everybody can go and have a look at it. definitely add a README file. Create repository now. And ta-da! This is your Git repository. You have only one README file. You don't have any other files. You don't have images. You don't have code. You don't have documents. Nothing. You only have one README file because you chose this text. I think I wrote this text that the name of my GitHub repository was test, and this was the description that I put there. And you know where this is located? Go to your README file. And
let's answer a couple of questions about readme.md, which is markdown files. What is it? Why should you make it? Who should make it? When should you make it? And where exactly in your repo, in your repository, should you put it?
For those questions, I have opened a well-maintained repository from this person called AI, Andrei Sitnik. This is really nice. This is well maintained. The README file is very well organized. Yes, looking at the README file, and that's what I was trying to show. So your README file sits on the main page. So here you can see readme.markdown, and the contents of README is like opening a bag and spreading the contents on the main page. So from here all the way to the bottom of page is the contents of that README file. Let's go back to those questions. What is a README file? It's a text file that introduces and explains a project. It contains information that is commonly required to understand what the project is about. Why should you make one? Well, it's an easy way to answer questions that your audience will likely have regarding your GitHub repository or how to run your code. Who should make it? Anyone who is working on a programming project and using Git and GitHub should have a README file. And when should you really make one? Definitely before you show a project to other people or make it public, because if you're just going to put a couple of folders and a couple of files and there is no description, well, people don't know where to start. Okay, then where should you put it? It must be in the top-level directory. And what is a top-level directory? Well, this is the top-level directory. This person's README file sits on the main page. Back to the big picture. Step number 2. Let's talk about Git, a software that lives on our computer and allows us to connect to the cloud. The question is, how do we make sure that Git is installed on our machine? Because it doesn't come by default. You need to install Git as a software on your machine like every other software. If you're on a Mac or Linux, Git is installed by default. So if you open a new terminal window, I'll just quickly maximize it so you can see it. Just do git -- version, and that will show you what version of Git is installed on your machine. If you are on a Windows, open a Windows PowerShell. But Git doesn't come installed by default on Windows. So let's see if this machine from Amazon has it installed. So go git -- version. No, Git, the term Git is not recognized. It means that it is not yet installed on this machine. But I'm going to show you how to install it. To download Git on Windows, simply get on Google and say Git for Windows 10 or 11, whichever you have. And go to the Git official website, choose Windows or Mac or Linux, but they come with default for those operating systems. And make sure to choose the right number of bits for your Windows. So I know that my Windows is 64-bit. Just gonna click and save. I'll wait for this one to download and I'll get back. Okay, the download is completed. I'm just gonna go say run, wait for the window to pop up. Okay, next, all default, next. Yep, everything next. Go ahead and starts installing. Okay, the installation is almost done. Finish. Okay, let's go back to the PowerShell, and I'm just gonna close that PowerShell, open a new PowerShell, Windows PowerShell. Okay, Git version. Yes, and I can see that I have Git version 2.36. Ta-da!
It doesn't matter if you're on a Mac or on a Windows. The commands are the same, so just feel free to follow. I have left this free space in the visuals so that you can see when I download that test repository from GitHub, it will appear on my computer. And if you remember, this was the ultimate goal for us, to connect my computer to GitHub. There are 4 main commands for connecting Git to GitHub. One command is from GitHub to your computer. The other 3 is from your computer to GitHub. What you are going to see not only downloads the test repository onto my computer, which here is on the desktop, but also will establish that connection between my computer and the cloud. So let's see what is the command for downloading the data, the images, the presentation. I will now show you the command that is used for downloading the data from the cloud onto the computer. So git clone, and as the word suggests, clone means copy something or make a copy of something, and that is the data onto my computer. Before we start cloning, which means copying the data from the cloud onto my computer, I should decide where I want that data. So go ahead, cd, which is change directory, to desktop, because that's where I want my data. Now, let's move into the world of Git. Every command for Git starts with the word Git. Surprise! So git clone, which means make a copy of something in my desktop. And what is that something? Well, if I jump to the GitHub repository, click on the code, and click on these 2 little squares, that will copy the URL for my repository, which is essentially the same thing up the top here, but it's convenient to go to code, click on these two little squares, and now let's make a copy on my computer. So the command is git clone, enter. What you can see says cloning into test, receiving objects 100% done. And look at this. This folder was not here when I showed it to you, but now it has been downloaded onto my desktop. If I open it, I will see it contains the README file, which is exactly what was here. There is only one README file. Well, now you may ask, how would I know that this connection between my computer and the cloud is established? Directory to test. Well, I am inside test now. So if I do Git Status, which means tell me what is the status of my current repository. Enter. It says you are on the main branch. Your branch is up to date and nothing to commit. Working tree is clean. What does this mean when it says there is nothing to commit? Essentially, it means that whatever is on the cloud is exactly like whatever is on your computer. Now, I want to kind of make that similarity different by adding some files to my computer folder test. And that means that my cloud version and my computer version will not be the same. And then I'm going to show you how to move and push things from my computer to the cloud so I can get that balance back again. And this would be a real example of your data science project. You will receive some data from your team members, from your manager, whoever is managing the GitHub repository. You will put it on your computer, start working for a week, for a month, for 6 months, produce really good results. And now you want to push this onto the team repository, because essentially your work, John's work, Lisa's work, Jessica's work will get together and become the whole project. Now I will show you what adding a couple of files to the test directory does to the status of your Git command. Okay, let's imagine that these 3 files are the results of my 6-month hard work. So a photo of myself, some code in Python, and some photo of really lovely sheep that I took here in Western Australia. What I'm going to do, imagine I have done that work. I'm just going to add it to my test folder so that I can share it with my colleagues. They are right now here, and the README file is here. So let's go ahead and say, okay, now that I have added some files, can you tell me the status of my Git repository? It says, yep, you have some untracked files. Means the files that you have added to your folder, but you haven't really added them to the GitHub repository, to the cloud. Step number 1, command number 1, git add. I'm just going to first start with this little shape. I'm going to add that image first. Git add 20. It starts with 20. If I press tab, that will do autocomplete. Okay. Does that mean that it is added to the GitHub repository? No. If I do a refresh, no, it's not here yet. It's only README. Well, you need to do command number 2, git commit, which is for adding a message, adding my sheep's image. Okay, that says one file changed. And is it already on the GitHub repository? Not yet again, because you haven't done the last and the most important one, which is git push. Look at this. Ta-da! It is writing the object, 66% done. It's a huge image. Wait for it to be done. Okay, that says done. It is done. Let's go and have a look. If I do a refresh, I should see my sheep here. Well done, yes. And my message is here, adding my sheep's image. Let's open it. It's 10.1 megabytes. Wow, that's a big image, and it's not fully showing here. But if I scroll to the right, I can see the face. And what I'm gonna do next, I'm just gonna add the 2 other files to the GitHub folder, and then I'm gonna push them to the. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to add the next 2 files, so my image and this Python file, into the test folder. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and do the next 2 files. So that's screenshot and the advanced copying lists, so the Python file. Just go ahead and say git add screenshot, just tab complete, space, and the next file, because you can add multiple files together. Just make sure you leave a space between the file names. Enter, git commit, add your message, adding my 2 other files. Just gonna put a tada, so colon, tada, colon, enter, and then git push. This is gonna push the next 2 files, which is doing right now, onto the GitHub repository. So if I refresh this, you will see that, yep, I have the sheep's image was here before, and I said adding my sheep's image, which was 17 minutes ago. And then now, let's see if it shows my face. Yes, that's done. So this is pretty much everything about uploading to GitHub and downloading from GitHub. I highly encourage you to go ahead, make a repository on your GitHub account, download it onto your computer, add files to your folder, and then push them back to your GitHub repository. So don't worry, you can always delete files, you can always delete repositories, so don't really be afraid of making millions of dummy repositories, because you can always get rid of them. So thanks a lot for listening, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for sharing this with the people that would really benefit from this.